When it comes to shifting, this is one woman you definitely want beside you. From dance instructor to CPA to fantasy and nonfiction author to coach with 5 flagship courses and counting. This daring nature lover, artist, and avid reader has successfully seen herself and her clients through more than a few rainy days and sticky life situations. She has written over 20 books, has 3 blogs, a podcast, and teaches classes on mindset, purpose, imagination, and discovery. The author of the Shift series of books, which I just spoke of, Becca is an expert on the very topic this summit is about. I could not be more excited to invite her to the Permission to Shift main stage.
Wow. Seriously, record that, and I'm going to put it on. I'm going to put it somewhere. It sounds fantastic. Who is that person?
You're not the first person to say that after your introduction. You guys are all incredibly modest. This is crazy.
It just, yeah, I think it's what you were saying before, that if you just take action, one action step at a time, you end up someplace. And then you look back and go, wait, what? So that I think that's probably what it is.
Well, let's talk about that. Let's lead in with your
Okay.
story. Tell us about your shift and how you got where you are.
That makes me laugh because I wonder where I am, because I don't know whether we ever get somewhere. It's really just for going. So, but where it started really was, I've been doing shifting since I was a kid. And I always joke that my poor parents had no idea what they were getting into, because I kept telling them, well, if you just change the way you're thinking about that, then you could do it. And especially my mom, she just hated it. It just drove her insane that I was speaking that way. So, and then I kept on saying things like that to people who didn't want to hear it. And finally, and then I did all those things, plus many more kinds of jobs that I'd have to tell you in private what some of them are. So, but every single one of them taught me something about the shift. And even when I was a teenager, I started collecting articles, and really a teenager, like long before some of these people were born. A teenager, I started collecting articles about perception and the way people saw things and physics. And then in 1992, I was in between jobs, which I often was, because I would work a job and then say, oh my God, I can't stand this anymore. And I would quit because I wanted to be a writer. And of course, I wasn't making a living as a writer, so I'd have to go back to work. So I went back as a certified financial planner, is what it was. But in between that, I was sitting in this little room. I lived in downtown LA, and I was sitting in this little balcony room that I had made. It made me think of Paris, because I loved Paris. And I kept hearing this voice in my head that said, it's time for you to start teaching that stuff. And I remember going, no, I'm not going to teach this stuff. And I kept trying to get other jobs, and I could not get a job. And literally, I can get a job, I could always get a job. I could always talk myself into any kind of job ever. And I could not get a job. So finally I thought, that must be where I'm stuck. And that's partly what we could talk about, is I must be stuck because I won't do what is in my mind. And the other thing that was on my mind was I had to paint. Well, those two things together don't seem like they went together. And I didn't want to paint. And I didn't have the money for paint because I didn't have a job. So how could I get paint? And then I decided that I would get a can of house paint, and I painted my living room all these weird shapes. And that was the beginning of me saying, oh, it was the log break. So if you've ever seen a dam where, one log goes across the water and then they all kind of clog up, and then it just gets worse and worse. That's where I was, is I kept saying no to everything. I thought I knew how to make things happen. I thought it was all about me making things happen. And this was I was capable. I could do anything.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I could get a job. Why not? And it just started making sense to me that I couldn't get that job because I was in the way. And so I started taking things out, which was I listened to the little voice in my head to paint my living room because I had enough money for a can of paint. And I would start teaching the shift, although I didn't know that's what it was called at first. And I had a mastermind group because I've had a mastermind group since in the 80s when I read Think and Grow Rich. And I loved mastermind groups. So I've always had a mastermind group of some kind. So I had a mastermind group of people. And I said, I'm thinking I'm going to start teaching that shift, that stuff that I talk about all the time, but who would ever want to know it? And they said, we would. So my first class was way back then. And then I got a job. So I got the job after I did all those little things. And I needed that job to actually pay bills. That was, sometimes you have to work. And I learned a lot when I was doing the job. And that's actually that job, just a small minor thing, taking a job was very good because it taught me the one next step in the shift that I hadn't really seen. And it happened one day when I was doing a financial plan for someone. And it was a really good one. I mean, because I know some people work for money and I know money's good, but I always have this sense that if I do something right for someone, then everything else will fall into place. So I was making her this great financial plan and I showed it to her and she said, I don't think I can do that. And then she went off to another broker and bought she did really stupid things. Stupid things. And I realized she couldn't recognize that she was worth what I was giving her. And that was the kind of the next step in me putting together the shift. And then to wrap it all up. So I started teaching class that what the shift name didn't come to me until one day I was going into my garage and I had a car that had a shift and I shifted to go into the garage and I went, that's what this is. It's the shift. So I started teaching that and all the time that I was doing my financial planning and taught a lot of people. And then at the end of that, I wrote my first book because I really didn't think that I should write the book based on what I thought would work. I thought I wanted to make sure it worked, that the things that I taught made a difference because otherwise it's just blah, blah, blah. So,
Yeah.
so that's when that happened. And then after that, everything else just fell into place after that. Although it took me like 5 years to write the first book.
The first book was The Shift, yes?
It's Living in Grace, The Shift to
Oh.
Spiritual Perception. Yeah, that's the first book. So the Shift series is all those books. And I thought Living in Grace would be, I published it myself back in 2002 and in 5 weeks because I wanted to go to New York, and you will meet a speaker tomorrow that I met when I was there, Susan Gilbert, and I met at New York at that book show. So it all kind of came about. But yeah, so that book is the Living in Grace. And then all the other books are taking apart that book and making each thing a little more succinct and useful.
Okay, so the first book was the inspiration for the breakouts for all the other ones.
Right. So the whole thing is called the Shift series, and I just keep adding to the Shift series.
So walk us through the series and what each book represents.
Okay, well, Living in Grace is really just the idea that we're already perfect and we don't know it. And then how do you change that perception? So the concept behind everything is that, and I hear a lot of speakers talking about this today and yesterday, so it was awesome. But what you perceive to be reality magnifies. So what you believe is what becomes more in your life. So that's the concept. And so perception is the rule, perception rules, nothing else. But there's 2 parts of perception that people forget. And one of them we all know, because we just might not call it this, it's point of view. So there's a point of view. And I would bet that everyone on this conference has the same point of view in one way or another. We might not say the same words, but you, Anna, do, because we talked, and that idea of that we all have a right to be who we are, that being unique is what we're supposed to be. And when we are that, it all falls into place. And that's our point of view. Or you might have the point of view, I'll just make one up that all of us that have at one time or another had struggled with one time or another, the point of view that there's always enough money, because that's what we're told, right? There's always enough money because abundance is the rule of the universe. And so that's a good point of view. But the second perception is state of mind. So if your state of mind is not attached to the point of view, then that's what we keep getting. That's actually what we're perceiving. The emotion of it is the perception, not the intellect. It's the emotion that's the perception. So you might say, I always have enough money, and then you go to write a bill and you can feel it. You know, you can feel the, oh my God, there's not going to be enough. And what if the world falls apart and shuts down for a year? So all the things that we think of that might happen, that state of mind is not in line with our point of view. So that's what we keep experiencing. And the other key point in this is that that voice in our head, what you were talking about earlier, is actually not us. We are not that voice in our head. We are something much broader and more infinite than that. And so when we learn how to shut that voice in our head down one way or another, it lives in the background, but it should not be governing our state of mind. So the Living in Grace was really all that. I did the 7 rules, the 7 steps to shift, and gracious steps where what do you start with and what do you go through? And it was a lot. So then one of the questions I asked in the book was, what is your life question? So we all come into this state of mind called the earth, with something going on in our head, some life question. And until we recognize it, we can't, and if we just hide from something, it doesn't do anything. So we have to face everything on. So it's called Face and Replace. So the next book was the 4 essential questions, like 4 questions you can ask to discover what your life question is and how to overcome them. I don't know if I'm going to get these in order, but let's see. Then there's Imagination Mastery. This is not in order. Imagination Mastery is learning how to go back to being the imagination master we were as children, because that imagination will shift the state of mind and point of view together. It will put it together because it's not intellectual. And it's trying to get away from the mind thinking things through. And then there's the 7 steps to right thinking, which is really a healing process. So if you're working through something that you're trying to heal, it's like, how do you get there? If I run out, Jet will have to pop in and tell me what I've forgotten. The daily shift, which is the one everybody can get, which is 7-day shifts that if you want to work on relationships or money or anything, there's like 20 different shifts in there that you can work through for 7 days. There's 28 days to wealth. So that's the one for money. Have I got to 7 or 8 so far? I think I ran out, but you can see I just took pieces from the Living in Grace and broke them out into smaller books that people can just follow and use them based on where they are at the moment.
Oh, here we go. Lindy is going to
There we
scroll
go.
through them for us. This is beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
While Lindy is scrolling through, Becca, because you have so much knowledge and we have such a short period of time with you, guys, would you like to throw in the chat if something she spoke of right in one of those books, a specific concept topic really stood out to you, so we can make sure that we cover that thing and that you're here, you're live, you get to determine, as it were, some of what we are going to talk about today.
Yes, and you also just saw a bunch of my nonfiction books, which are actually the same thing, just in a story form. So,
actually, if we just pull up her intro image, those will be the right books, or not the right books, but the
shift books.
The shift series is on the intro.
Yeah,
and that's all right. You are also a
Yeah.
fiction writer. It is also worth noting that that was one of your shifts. And it was a
Yes.
powerful one.
Oh, you're so smart. Yes, it is. I went into fiction writing, and I love the fiction writing because I think of it more as like a parable. So I thought when I started writing fiction that I would leave the perception stuff behind. What a joke. And this is the thing that really is important to know, is that you will always take yourself with you. So you might as well know who you are. So even when I'm writing fiction, I'm still talking about perception shifting, but in a story way.
So we have a couple of people who are really interested in wealth shifting. Would
Okay.
that be something that you would be interested in speaking about with us
Well,
before we get into anything else?
the wealth shifting. Well, okay, the wealth shifting, the wealth book is taking apart the word wealth. It started out as a 7-day shift. That was an email series, and I made it into a big book. And you just follow that along. So the first step, just talking about that, is waking up to wealth. So if I can actually just go into a couple other, because some of the tools that I use are the same, and that would work. Okay, so waking up to wealth is like waking up to the wealth around you, and then bringing your state of mind into it. And one of the ways that I do that is through something called the I choose sheet. So if someone gives me something they're working with, I can walk through the I choose sheet, and then that would kind of make sense around this.
Where is our Jet, since she was our first suggester? I'm throwing you under the bus. Well, no, on the bus. I'm putting you on
is the bus.
She is. She's the Jet. What the heck? Yes.
Yes.
You transcended. Can you unmute yourself? Let's pin Jet. Oh, she's got a big smile. I love this. I love her energy.
Okay, well, the question, you might as well put it all into wealth too, Becca, is like, well, I choose to have more money in my life.
Okay, so can you make it really specific? I choose to have more money.
I choose to have enough money to meet my basic expenses every month.
Okay, so if Jet was doing this for real, I'd make her write this down. So she would choose, I choose to have enough money all the time, something really simple. And that's something everybody would probably say, right? I choose to have enough money all the time, never worry about money again. I choose to never worry about money again. Does that work? Okay, so since Jet knows me, I'm going to just keep her on the bus and say, so Jet, when you write that down, what does the voice in your head say to you?
But I don't have enough time to get a second job.
So it says you need to get a second job and you don't have enough time to get it. So she's making this up, by the way, probably. So she would write down, she hear that voice in your head. So remember, that voice in your head is the one that's causing the emotional breaking you out of the state of mind. So her state of mind is, in order to have enough money, she might choose her point of view that there's enough money, but her state of mind would be, but if I want enough money, I'm going to have to work harder. I have to go get it. And I don't have enough time. So she would hear that voice in her head, and then she would write down, I choose to have enough time. So it sounds like, oh, so what, but here's what we're doing. And by the way, these I choose sheets can go on for pages and pages, because it's the voice, what you were talking about, Anna, when I came on, it's the talky talk, the monkey voice, it's all those past perceptions, it's all those agreements, it's all the worldview. It just keeps going on. And if you don't know that it's there, what are you supposed to do? It's be like you were living in a house with clutter and you had no idea it was there. So you have to unclutter your thinking, and that's what the I choose sheet does. So Jet would say, I choose to have enough time. So she wrote that down. Now what? Now what did you think?
but I don't know where to go to work. I don't know anybody to ask to.
Okay, so she gave me two, so she could say, I choose to know who to ask, and I choose to know. So she could go to both those, but she has to write it down. So it doesn't work if you don't write it down with your pen, not your typewriter. It has to be physically written down. And you don't ever keep these, yes, like that. And you don't keep these either, by the way. You might think, after I'm done with this, and you'll know when you're done, it's like the block is gone. You took all the logs away. And I'm serious, I've done them where it took me 4 or 5 pages and days to get it, because I would think again, okay, that, and then there would be another reason why, because I'm too short, could be one of the reasons. I choose to be tall enough. It could be anything. So do you want to do another one, Jet? Another thing you would choose?
On this list or something else?
Anything you wanted.
Anything else? Okay. I want to be more flexible and fit.
Okay, so I choose to be, it's not more. I choose to be flexible and fit. Okay, so why can't you be?
Well, I was born tight. I could never do a split as a kid, so my body just doesn't agree with that.
This is perfect, because that's a state of mind and a point of view that's been attached to Jet since she arrived. It came along with her. And how would she know not to say, I don't want to be like that? Not everybody can just automatically do splits. Do you think everybody automatically does splits? They don't. It's sorry, it's a continuous practice. So you choose to be more flexible. So I choose to know I've always been flexible.
But whenever I try and do the stretches in class, I can't even touch my toes.
I choose to keep trying to touch my toes.
But I fall over.
I choose to hold on to a chair while I'm doing it.
When people say to reach for my right ankle, I don't even bend at the waist.
I choose to know I can reach my right ankle.
And so on and so on.
And so on, right. So that's how that I choose sheet works. Does that make sense, Anna?
It does. Can we throw Bart up there because he also volunteered?
Yeah.
Can we replace Bart on the screen, please?
Bart, I can't wait. It's fun.
Hi.
Someone you won't know.
I don't know. So how will this go? Okay. Hi, Bart.
Hi, Becca. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. So what do you want to do?
So I'm just referring to what it is that I want to shift in terms of wealth and abundance. That's my assignment now. Quote unquote. Okay. Yeah? Is it correct?
Okay. If you want it to be.
Yeah. So maybe it would be more, because I was just following the leads that Jet gave me, but in fact, I would like to have more a procedure I could follow in terms of relationships.
Okay, yeah, do that one.
Okay. I'd like to experience fulfilling, ongoing, meaningful relationship with my inspiring relationship with my children.
Okay, so if you can shorten it. The shorter you make it, the easier it is. So I would kind of, and these are my words, so make them your words when you go to do this. But I choose to have inspiring and an inspiring relationship with my children.
Yeah.
Okay, so why can't you?
Because they're not used to having this sort of relationship with me.
You know, it's you not used to having that sort of relationship with them. But so it's you that has to shift, not them.
Yeah.
So you're going to choose, you're going to have to keep choosing. I choose to have an inspiring relationship with my children. And when you start coming up with things that you are doing that is not inspiring, that you're blocking yourself from having it, maybe you are not used to having it, or you didn't experience it. So let's say you didn't experience it. I don't know if that's true, but you might say, I choose to have experienced inspiring relationships in my life. I choose to have inspiring relationships in my life. So it kind of moves away from just being about the children, because something within you is saying that you aren't capable of having inspiring relationships with your children. And that's what you want to uncover. And then all that will just kind of fall into place. So I could take you into another thing to do with this if you want me to. Yes? Anna's saying yes. Okay. So if you were having, all right, so let's back up just a second. So we were talking about everything that happens outside yourself really happened inside first. So everybody knows that, right? Well, at least we know it. We don't actually get how that's supposed to work most of the time, but we know that it's our thinking that produces our outside life. So I call it, and a lot of people start from the other way around. They say, if you do this, then this will happen. Or you think that, then this will happen. But I want to go backwards. I want to say, this is the thing you want, an inspiring relationship. Probably want inspiring relationships with a lot of people. So maybe we'll just say inspiring relationships to make it easy for now. And if this is where imagination comes into play. So you might have to step away and do this after the call. And if you want to talk about it, just email me and I'll be happy to do that. But if you are actually in an inspiring relationship, we're going to turn that thing called what you want, inspiring relationships, back into what it really is, qualities.
Okay.
Okay. So if you were in an inspiring relationship, how would you feel?
I would feel grateful. I would feel motivated, empowered. Similar qualities. This
is perfect. Actually, you went right to qualities. A lot of people don't get that concept of right to qualities. So I would make a list of the things you would feel if you were in inspiring relationships. And then there's 4 steps to use them. And I know I'm doing this really fast, but you can find all this stuff on my website. So once you have those qualities, so everything you want, from the thing Jet was talking about, money, to a car, to a refrigerator, to a new plant in your garden. So if you took it back to qualities first, then you would end up with what you really want. Most of the time we don't end up with what we want because we've gone from the out here in instead of in out. So once you get this list, it's best if you put it in order, but if you don't get it, and I will do that for you, Bart, so just let me know. But once you get it in order, then you use it 4 ways. The first way you use it is as a filter or shopping list, depending on your point of view. So instead of I'm just going to say your first quality was grateful. So you would spend a lot of time looking around you, out in the world, at people everywhere, your house, your dining room table, and figure out what made you grateful for that. So you expand your idea of gratitude, you expand your idea of what's motivated. There's just that quality, I could talk about that for about 4 hours. Just that quality of motivated is misunderstood because so many people think motivated is you have to go out and motivate yourself to do something and make money. And that isn't it. What you're really talking about when you're inspired, you're motivated from an internal spark. So you would look for what motivates people. It doesn't have to be you. This is the cool thing, because since we're all really just one and we're all connected, you can find all these qualities in other people. So you would look at other people who you think have inspiring relationships. What does that look like? You're going to go study those qualities and add them to your quality list. And then, so you use it as a filter or a shopping list. You look out in the world and see that all the ways that these things are present in the birds, your postman, the woman who checks you out at the grocery store. And then you're going to be grateful that you can see them, because if you can see them, you already have them. So you see how that works, because everything comes from within. So if you saw them, you already had them. You want inspiring relationships because you already know what that is. Otherwise, you wouldn't want it. You wouldn't even know to want it. You know people who don't even know they want it. So you already know what it is. So it's right there. It's just right there, getting rid of all those little things. So that's the fourth thing that you do with this list, is you become each one of these. I think this is actually the hardest part of each one of these. So you become grateful, you become empowered without the need for the thing you said you wanted. You just become those anyway. I'm going to be motivated right now because I feel the spark within me. I'm motivated to go out and move a bunch of rocks outside. People know me, know I've been moving rocks. So it could be anything. And those two really simple tools, the I choose sheet and the quality word list, to me are magic. So everything else kind of falls into place if you use those two things. There's lots of steps, but those things get that state of mind in harmony with your point of view. So your point of view is you want inspiring relationships, and you're going to get your state of mind in harmony with it. And then, wow, bam, and expect it. So, one last thing, and then I'll have Anna ask me more questions. But the first step is you have to be willing. So you can do all this, and you're not willing for things to change, nothing's going to happen. So you'll get more willing as you go along. Does that help?
Yeah, absolutely. Makes perfect sense. This is helpful.
Well, and I mean it. Just get in touch with me, and I'll walk you through your list and put it in order for you, and make sure that you move on to those inspiring relationships with your children, because they're just waiting for it.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate it, Becca.
Sure.
Thank you so much. That was very brave. Show Bart some love, guys.
Yes.
I really appreciate that you let me throw you on stage like that, Bart. That was fantastic. You are a trooper. And I love how you turned it on us. I was expecting you to have a money goal. That was amazing.
I was glad he didn't, because money is really the last thing we need. We need it, but it is.
Talk about that, could you? I love that statement. That was very powerful. Money's the last thing we need. Can you talk about that?
Well, it's the last thing we need, in terms of that working for it is really a waste of time. Working for it, not doing things for it, but working and focusing. So many and it was good that Bart went to relationships, because so many of us have sacrificed time in relationships by going out and working for money, thinking that the money that we have will make our relationships good and we'll buy things that we want, and it never will. So if we become more of who we are and work from our inner self, then what we do, and it will actually show us ways to earn money, for money to come in. And but back to my experience, like I just needed a job and nobody would hire me, because I was trying to make that happen. So as soon as I switched and was willing to let it be the way it was going to come to me, then it was easy. So there's always working for money, but I don't think it should ever be the first thing that we put on our list. Although everybody should have enough money to be comfortable.
So what you just said there about letting the ways to make money come to me sounds very scary, because it means I have no control.
But you don't. Isn't that bizarre? We don't have any control. The only control we have is what we do with our perception. That's it. And you know it's true, because if you think back on your life and you think all the things you said you were going to do and what was going to happen, did it? Did it happen that way? I mean, I'm very much, and people that know me know I control how how my classes work. It starts on time, it ends on time. Yeah, that part. The logistics, yes, we have control of logistics, but how things will evolve, we don't. Because life is really about our spiritual growth. And so we have to let that evolution happen and be grateful for that. It's always meant to serve us, not to harm us.
So what do we do about the self-sabotage, the things we do to step in our own way because we're scared of that path?
Well, it's definitely a process. So I would not say that overnight you're going to stop being afraid or wish you were in control or wish you knew what was going to happen next or worry. It's not going to happen overnight, but it is that process of looking at what are the points of view in our head and states of mind that are running this show. And as we eliminate them or clean them out, if you really think of it as your house being your life being a clutter of non-useful information for you that we accepted, like this is how it is for me, this is how it is for the world. As we get rid of those things through I2 sheets and quality words, then the solutions are right there in front of us. I know that people say one door closes, another opens. Well, there's always open doors. We just can't see them. And people on this call probably, well, yeah, I can. And so you have to kind of look outside of yourself at people you've ever tried to change their mind. And then, there's nothing stopping them from doing the thing. You're going, oh my God, just do that. What? So you can see it in other people. It's the thing they're saying in their head that's causing the problem. They're accepting that it's true. That's the point. The voice in your head is not telling you a truth. The voice in your head, if what you're hearing is telling you you can't, and you're not good enough, and it will never work, that can't be true. So assuming that everybody says there's an intelligence, divine mind, whatever you want to call it, does it treat its creation that way? No. So the voice that we want to follow is the one that constantly says to us, it's good, it's good, I'm here, I'm still here. I think of it as like that voice is like got an arm around you going, come on, come on. It's always forcing us to do more, but it's not pushing you and saying what an idiot you are and how come you can't do it. That voice in your head is a liar.
Well, and people aren't born with that voice either. It evolves through our environment and through our surroundings. Can you talk about that a little bit?
It does, it evolves, but it's in a way we are born with it because we have heredity beliefs.
Ah, yes.
So, and we're born like we're women, we're short, we're tall, we're fat, we're skinny. So some of those things are stuck, that's a reason why you can't do something because, and then whatever family we were born into had its history, its point of view, whatever school you went to had its point of view. Children, you can see children having very few barriers to being imaginative and loving and kind to each other. It's only when the worldview starts impinging upon it. But we are wise adults. We can definitely stop believing that and move on to something that helps everyone and is kind to ourselves. Because we're supposed to be doing what our unique quality, I call it unique spiritual blessing. We're supposed to be doing that. That's what we do. And the more we do that, the more everything else is taken care of.
Mm-hmm. So the I choose sheets, is that part of your 7 steps to right thinking?
It's one of the tools for those 7 steps.
Okay.
Yes. So the first step is be willing. So and which is what I told you. So the 7 steps, the 7 steps to right thinking. Well, that is the healing steps. So that's a whole different one. And I'd have to, yes. So but the 7 steps to shift is first to be willing. Yeah. Is to be willing. And the second is to become aware of signs and symbols. So there's always something that's telling us look here, look. So if we start paying attention to signs and symbols, if you want to see kindness, you can look out in the world and see kindness. Then you want me to go through all 7 of them?
Would you guys like to hear all 7? Do you think this? Yes, the answer is resounding yes.
Okay, so become aware, then understand signs and symbols, because signs and symbols can be, you can misinterpret them based on the wrong voice. So understand that in some of my fiction books, the protagonist, the antagonist often says, oh, look how the world's coming together for me. So my evil ways must be good. So you can misinterpret the signs and symbols. So understanding what they are is part of that. And then the next one we've been talking about all along, perception rules. So if you're trying to make a decision and you go through these four things, you can make a decision, but in any form. But for me, because my focus is about shifting people towards a spiritual perception or an infinite perception, whichever way people are more comfortable hearing that. So the next step is choosing spiritual perception, which is different, which we've been talking about all along. Is quality words is spiritual perception. I choose sheets or spiritual perception, and then walking your talk. So you can talk about it all you want, but we've got to actually do it. I was thinking about how this relates to gardens. So you could say, I really want a wonderful garden. I'm dreaming about a garden, but you can dream about a garden forever, but you'll never have one until you go out, find out and start digging around, bringing good soil in, finding the plants, planting the plants, nurturing the plants, taking care of them. So just thinking about it, just saying God is, or divine mind is infinite abundance, is not going to produce that. We have to actually till the soil, be willing, do the things. And then the last one is to celebrate with gratitude. So in all those steps, keep celebrating that the truth is what we've been talking about, no matter what outside of us may be telling us.
So what is your opinion on things like the law of attraction, where they don't talk about action? They say we don't have
I think
to do
they left
anything.
out the most important part. so yeah, no.
No. So talk to us more about action, because that's what all of today is about. This is the day of actions, the day of how. So talk to us a little bit about action, if you could.
There is an attraction, because quantum physics talks about that. But if you don't walk your talk and you don't take action, nothing happens. I mean, it's just ridiculous to think that we don't have to do anything. I lived in San Diego in the 80s and 90s, or 80s, and then I moved to LA in the 90s. But it was this hotbed of New Age. And Terry Cole Whitaker was one of the main speakers then. She was awesome. If anybody ever heard her, she was fantastic. And she would often say, what do you think you're going to do? Go home and sit on the couch and check your mail every day to see if there's a check in there for you? I mean, that's absurd. That's not how this works. You came here to share your gifts with people. And that sharing may be just your smile. It may be you plant a beautiful tree in your front yard. It may be that you know how to do someone's taxes. It may be that you are a wonderful father, which I'm sure Bart is, even though he doesn't know it yet. It may be all those things, but you're supposed to be here sharing that. You can't just sit on the couch and wait for it to show up. That's no, you have to take action. It's not fair. You can't just sit there. And I think everybody knows people that just sit there and expect the world that owes them a living. Well, what we owe is everybody who we are. That's what we owe. That's what we're here to do. So, and it's not big things. As you were saying earlier, it's not this huge thing. It's a little thing. And to think that who we are has to be the president of Nigeria or the head of a church. It's not that at all. It's just be the best that you are in where you are, in your family, in the work that you do, and the people that you speak to when you're out in the world. That's what counts.
And that leads very beautifully into your life question, because not knowing your life question causes you to question who you are.
Yes. And I'll give you an example of a friend of mine whose life question was actually a life statement. So I say it's a life question because it produces questions. But she is this awesome woman, and she was in one of my masterminds, and she would always say, I mean, this is a woman who ran an architecture firm. Did I say that word right? Yeah. And worked with big corporations. Didn't sound right in my head. I worked with big corporations and ran a business on her own. And she would constantly say, I don't know about everything. I don't know. And I made her, that was her life statement, that she didn't know. She didn't know that that was her life statement. So I made her stop saying it. I made her just say, I do know. Well, she didn't believe that, but she had to walk around every time she said, I don't know, she'd say, I do know, which is really an I choose thing. And that I don't know went away, and all sorts of wonderful things evolved, but mostly she was happier, which is really the point. So
would you be able to walk our viewers through quickly how to make a life statement or a life question?
Well, you're actually going to uncover one.
You guys in?
Yeah, which one do you, what do you know that you say to yourself all the time? That you say you can't, and then you're going to, if you don't know it, go for it. Oh, someone said ancestral baggage. I come from, is that, yeah. So do you believe that who you are is based on heredity of a material body? So what if you're not? I like heredity too, but if I accept that who I am is based on who my mom and my dad are, then I'm always going to be stuck in that paradigm, good or bad. So I'm going to have to accept that I am an expression of the divine individually that has a history in the human world, but it can't impact what I do on a daily basis. Oh, I had one. Oh, I have thought that people abandoned me. I had a life statement that I would say to myself, I'm always abandoned. There was reasons for it. I had a history of what was happening. I really thought that was true. And it kept showing up over and over again. I'd pick guys and then they'd abandon me. It was crazy. Until one day I said, where did this come from? And then I remembered where it came from. And I said, I've never been abandoned. This is a true statement. Nobody's ever been abandoned. You've always been one with the divine, always. I did not believe that statement. I just said it. It took 4 months of me saying it all the time until I finally got that I had never been abandoned. And then I haven't been. Does that make sense?
It does, actually. We were talking about that similar concept this morning, and there's neuroscience behind that.
Yeah.
Because that's the part of your brain that doesn't judge. It just accepts whatever you tell it repeatedly.
Yeah. And if you're going to tell it something, for God's sake, tell the truth to it. I mean, if you're going to shift your perception, this is why I talk about spiritual perception. Why just shift to something better? Why not shift to an infinite possibilities? You hear me say, like, why not shift to that we're divine expressions? If I ever discover that's not true, I'll shift to a different one if it's better. But in the meantime, that's the biggest one I can think of. It's the safest one I can think of. It's the most expressive one that I can think of. It does the most good for everybody. If I keep on saying that I choose spiritual perception and that everybody now and forever is perfect and an expression of the divine. So if I can come up with a bigger statement shift to do, I will, seriously. It's not like a locked in stone, but why shift to, I could be the queen of Africa. Why would you do that? That's so small when you think about it. So since we're going to spend so much time shifting our perception, choose the biggest one you got. And you'll say it differently than I do. So it doesn't have to be the way I say it.
So for anyone looking to do this, Is everyone clear on how to do this first? Do we have any questions, or do we need clarity on how to create your life statement? Throw it in the chat. For God's sake, tell the truth. Brilliant. Yes, Anne, I love that.
Yeah.
But do you guys get how to make your life statement? Have you guys done this yet while we've been talking? Throw it in the chat if you have created. No, more clarity, please. Okay, perfect. We do have some time. Can you break it down for them one more time, exactly step by step, how to create this?
Okay, so you're thinking that you're going to create your life statement, and I'm thinking you're going to shift your life statement.
Yes, shift your life statement. Thank you.
Right. So the way you're going to discover what your life statement is by listening. So the next time you think about doing something, what stopped you? And if you pay enough attention to it. Oh, by the way, if you have really good friends that know you really well and love you in spite of everything, they probably know what it is. So, because they hear you say it all the time. So I would ask them, what do you think that I say all the time that stops me from doing something? So yeah, and that's how, and so, and then there's 4 questions that go with it. And the four essential habits has 4 questions. Am I running? Am I hiding? Am I waiting? Am I something else? So you can ask yourself those 4 questions all the time, and then that will keep coming up, and you'll go, oh yeah, that's right. I'm waiting. What am I waiting for? So if you're waiting to do something, ask yourself, what am I waiting for? It's probably going to start revealing to you a life statement that you want to shift to a big perception. So what are you waiting for? I could go back to Bart and say, what are you waiting for? And he might find out what that was. So, or am I running? Am I hiding? Yes, of course we run and we hide. Sometimes it's a good thing. Oh, am I lying? Yes, sometimes you have to lie. If someone came to my, if someone came to my house that was running from a bear, oh no, wait, a really evil man, and I brought them in the house and the evil man knocked on my door and said, is that person here? I would lie and say, no, they're not. That's a good lie. But are we lying about who we are and what we're doing? That is where we want to tell the truth. So am I waiting? Sometimes we want to wait and pause, but most of the time we wait because the world would be better. I remember I thought when I was in my 20s that I should keep my mouth shut about what we're talking about today because I was too young and who would listen to me? And now I think maybe I'm too old and no one will listen to me. So, it's just all relative. Just get out there and start doing your stuff. Are you hiding? Yes, you have to hide from things that are not good for you. Are you hiding because you're afraid to put yourself out and express yourself? So these are not questions, right or wrong questions. They're revealing questions to help you understand what you are doing.
You are amazing. And I also believe you have some giveaways for our audience before we run out of our time here. Would you like to share that with them?
Yes, you actually can get the Daily Shift book, which has, I think, 20 different shifts for 7-day shifts. So you could just do 7 days of the wealth, 7 days relationships, 7 days of exercise. There's a whole bunch of them in there. Just go to, it's Beca, BecaLewis.com/Anna Lang, and it should show up. That is the email, right? Yeah.
I made a new bit.ly link so that we could track it from our end and see what was so I have no idea, to be honest, what the heck the link is. Can we drop that link in the chat and we'll see? There it is. Beca Lewis free book, bit.ly.
Okay. Okay. You made that. Yeah, that's the link. Yeah. And then you can get the free book, and I'm always available, and I have lots of things you can sign up for. Some might fit you, some might not, but there's lots of little things that you can get. And I would love to be able to help anybody that needed it.
Perfect. And we have that link too. Lindy, if you can drop that link, you can get in touch with Beca at this link. It will be on the speaker's page. It'll be under her video. So will the free book link. Take advantage of the book. Take advantage of getting in contact with this incredible human. And do we have any final questions before I ask the final question?
Uh-oh.
Throw them in the chat if you want to know anything. Any more questions? We all good? All right, I'm moving into, oh, just a heartfelt thanks. Amazing, Anne. I like Anne and Anna. We're a tag team on this thing.
I love it.
So final question. You are standing in front of your younger self. What do you say?
It's okay it's okay who you are. It's a good thing what you do. And that is really the thing I want to say to everybody. You already know who you are and what your skills are and what your the way that you express yourself. And it's only the fact that when I was young, I made people crazy by the way I talked to them, and I had to learn how to. I have to now say, do you want to hear a shift statement, or do you just not want to hear it at all? And most of the time I don't say anything unless people ask me. But who I was, knowing what I knew, was not a bad thing. And that's, I would have said, you know, you're much better than you think you are. And thankfully, I did have some teachers that told me that to me. So it makes a big, huge difference in my life when they did. So
The power of mentorship.
absolutely. And that's what everybody should say to themselves. You're okay. In fact, you are perfect the way you are.
Thank you so much for your time, Becca. They're showing you the love in the chat.
Oh, you
Amazing
guys are
positive
awesome.
energy. You can see the love. You've had an impact. Thank you so much for your time.
Oh, thank you, Anna, for asking me. I really appreciate everybody being here and being so open to what we're talking about. It means a lot to me. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Have a wonderful afternoon.
You too.
Thank you.